Hello guys, welcome to a new video. This is Resident Gaming and I'm back again for a new video, and today we are going to be playing Universe Sandbox. Now, for those of you who don't know, and those of you in a complete moron on the internet, because who doesn't know what Universe Sandbox is? Universe Sandbox is a game. It's basically a universe simulator, hence the title. And it's basically using like real science, physics and stuff, and you can just mess around with everything. You know, you can throw planets into others, explode asteroids, and all this good stuff. So, what have we here? Well, if you haven't realised yet, this is actually the solar system. So you have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Ceres, which is like a big asteroid in the belt, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto is somewhere around there. Where the heck is Pluto? There it is. Okay. So, what are we doing? Oh god, ow, my eyes. Okay. So, we're going to be just messing around with the solar system and seeing how that goes first, I believe. So, here's the Sun. It's a nice little sun. Let's actually go to Earth first to see how Earth's doing. You know, at the year 2026. Slow down time. God, it's spinning really fast. They've just released this on Steam, although I had the alpha for a long time beforehand, which is a closed alpha, so you can only get into it if you actually had a key or something, or you bought it separately. So here's the Earth as the days go on. You can see you got America over there. Now this is currently the winter, I believe, which hence why there's snow across a lot of this place. Not the Ice Age, don't worry. But this is basically, it simulates seasons in the Universe Sandbox. So if I was to click on the Earth, and if I was to optimize it for climate view, and we're going to speed up time, and you can see the months down here. Yeah, I think it's the last one for the month. Oh, it's the day. Okay, the month is the middle number. I'm going to speed up time, and you'll see as the days progress and the months progress, the ice is slowly receding due to it becoming later in the year. So we're in April now. The ice is still receding. This is an interesting little thing. You know, if you speed it up, you can see how the ice just grows and recedes as it goes around the sun, which is pretty interesting. This game has been worked on for quite a while, and so it's pretty interesting. Okay, let's just speed up a bit more. Slow down to about the winter time, so around about here. Okay, so this is the Earth. Now you can always edit all these different things. You can edit the surface temperature. I'm not exactly sure what the albedo effect is. I think that is a reflectivity, so it's how much heat the thing reflects. This is going to be quite a sciencey video. I kind of feel the need to just rub science, and it also helps with well, you know, physics and the stuff I'm doing in A level right now, as explained in the vlog. So you got all the stuff you can change, all of these. You can also change the constituency of the planet, which is pretty cool. Actually, it's pretty cool. So let's just not optimize it. Can we unoptimize? No, I didn't mean to reset the climate. God damn it. Okay, let's just reset the simulation. I didn't want to change the gravity. How do I reset the simulation? Okay, let's just load it up again then. So let us open the solar system again. Okay, so back to the solar system. Right, let's mess around with the Earth, shall we? The Sun, sorry. Let us mess around with the Sun. Let us change its surface gravity. Maybe, maybe not. Let's change its mass. Let's see what happens when we increase the mass. That's 1.28. See, everything is orbiting. Now sort of Venus is kind of screwed. But this is mainly... See, Earth is now coming in. This Earth is just taking a trip. Venus is like... Oh god. This is certainly screwed up a lot of stuff. So if you go back on Earth now, we can see that the temperature right here is just... Earth is just like boiling up. So, have a look at it. You can see... Oh god. Okay, slow down time. You can see that now we've sent it closer to the Earth. The flipping atmosphere is boiling away. Look, there's no water. The water is just boiled away because now the Sun is absolutely huge and the Earth's really close to it, which is pretty cool. We can even get this further if we want to. Let's have a look at the other planets actually. How's Venus doing? Venus is... Oh god, Venus is glowing red hot. Yo, guys, we screwed up Venus. Mercury is probably absolutely toasted. Yeah, Mercury is probably on fire right now. Yeah, pretty much. It's not actually glowing yet, but it is having pieces. You can see this piece is ripping off it as it travels around the Sun. Mars, how's Mars? I bet Mars is quite a good temperature now. Let's have a look. Surface temperature 15 degrees. You could actually live on Mars at this point. Normally Mars is quite in the minus region of temperature, but you could live on Mars at one point. Let's do this a bit more. Let's just speed up time a bit. Okay, speed up time to about there. And let's increase the mass some more. Oh god. Okay, we may have just made it. Yep, we have just made the sun a supernova. That is a remnant of the supernova. That is brilliant. Not what I expected, but it's brilliant anyway. And bye planets. Where's Earth? Okay, there's no gravity anymore, so basically we're just going to continue on a straight path. Well, there's barely any gravity. Yeah, it's not going to work. But now we're going to see Earth cool down, and this will be quite interesting to see. So, there it goes. And you can see as the temperature is cooling down, currently 143 degrees, it is actually bringing water back, which is pretty cool. Let's speed up some more time. And you can see it's still cooling down. On the right you can see here how much it's cooling down. And here we go, 90, 80, 70. And we're going to see it's going to cool right down. So now it's going like to 5 degrees. You can see the ice is just covering, like you got ice on Africa, like whole of America is just ice now. I'm surprised there isn't any on Australia actually. There's a bit up there, but mostly it's okay. And then we're going to speed up time, and eventually all the continents will just be caked in ice. Speed up a bit more time, and now we can see that all the continents, there's like a little scrap, like Tasmania. New Zealand is okay. Yeah, but it's just ice. And you can see that the ice sheet as well, that the actual ice sheet is actually expanding in Antarctica as well. Speed up some more time. As we speed up time, you will be able to see that the ice sheet will just start covering everywhere. You'll see that it starts to sort of, you see how it's sort of moving down very slowly. And it will eventually, yeah, you see it's eventually just covering the whole planet as you get to like -degrees. There we go. Now the Earth is just a frozen ice ball. You can still see like faint content. This is really cool to me. Now, as Earth has outlived its usefulness, let us do something. Let us launch a blooming thing at it. Let us see. Let's launch Mercury at it. So now this poor Earth, which has been frozen to death, is about to have Mercury launched at it. This is not going to go well for anyone. We will see exactly how this works. Now the collisions effects in this game are absolutely amazing. It's one of the main reasons I bought it actually, because the collision effects are amazing as well. So let's speed up time. And you're ready for some awesome effects. I'm going to do this kind of slow because it looks badass when it's really slow. This is about a minute. No, this is about 8 times real speed. And we're going to see how this collides. And it's going to be hell of a collision this will be. Because if you don't know, Mercury is actually really dense. It's about the weight of Mars, and yet about half the size. So this will be interesting. And kaboom, collision. And there goes our. See, immediately it's heated up again, and you got like the ice is still there, but the ice is just the ice is vaporizing. Like the ice is just vaporizing into the air. You may also hear the soundtrack. It sort of changes, but this poor Earth, my friends, this poor Earth. You know, people in India are okay. Britain, yeah, has just got completely annihilated. This is just so fun. I just like picking out the places. The ice sheet's just receding. You see this? I just like picking out the places that are still alive. Like, okay, maybe we're okay in like the South America now, but not for much longer because there's like this massive shockwave just traveling all around the world, and you got all these fragments. And my God, look how beautiful is this? It's just like morbid beauty. This is. It is awesome. So let's speed up some time a bit more, and you can see all the fragments. Some of them will just like fly from escape velocities. Others will actually orbit the planet for a while until they just crash back down, or they may actually stay in orbit. So there goes the water, just immediately melted. It still needs some work, the climate system, but you can see now as the temperature increases, so the Earth has basically become like 4,000 degrees because it's just absorbed mercury. You'll see now everything is just going to turn to fire. So there goes another thing colliding. Everything that collides really contributes to the temperature. And you can see the Earth is now just like a fireball. Speed up some more time. And there we go. And eventually, once it cools down, which it will do eventually, it takes a hell of a long time to cool down. But you see how many years it's actually taking. It takes hundreds of years for such a planet to cool down. You know, we'll be talking thousands of years, and you see how slowly it's cooling down. It's lagging out the simulation. But basically, that will be like a hot ball until eventually it will cool down and just become a completely different planet. Like everything will just be melted. You won't be able to detect anything anymore. Anyway, another thing that's cool to mess around with is Saturn with rings. Now, this is sort of the ring simulation. Obviously, you can't simulate every single tiny particle in the rings, so they sort of limit it to a certain amount, which I think this is about 1,000. I think this is 1,000, because computers can't simulate everything in the ring. So this is Saturn. This is a simulation of it. You see how many flipping moons it has. I mean, Jesus, look at this. This is like more tangled than the wires down the back of my PC. Anyway, so it's really cool. I think how they. I love this sort of transition line. It's a new graphic feature that I've noticed. It's a bit different to the old style, which is cool. The sun isn't present in this simulation, by the way. Anyway, so let us collide. Let us actually see what happens when we add Mercury, Neptune. What is bigger, actually? I don't know what's bigger. Is it? Let's have a look. Radius. Okay, Uranus is bigger. Let's find Neptune at it. Let's find Neptune like that. And we'll see how Neptune's gravity will actually pull the rings apart, which is a fun thing that they actually do. So if we speed up time just a little, we'll be able to see. This is about 10 minutes a second, so it's about 600 times faster in reality. And speed up a bit more. Okay, that's 1,200 times faster than actual reality. And we'll see as it slowly starts to cut closer. As you can see, the rings are just starting to warp. These rings are just starting to be pulled, especially the moons. You can see the moons as well, like the Pallene and Enceladus, starting to just become in the gravitational pull of Mercury. It's just creating a lot of chaos, really. And this is actually probably going to, yep, this is going to collide straight into Saturn, which is not really what I intended, but it's happening anyway. So the rings are just being sucked up, look. It's just warping everything. So the rings are going to collide as well. It's just, yeah, see the rings are just sucking in. And here we go, collision time. The rings didn't really stop it much, but we'll see. And there we go, just absorbed into Saturn like that. Well, I don't want. Yeah, sometimes the effects are really dodgy on gas giants, and here the rings have just been thrown into disarray. So we'll speed up time again. You see, all the rings are just falling into the gravitational pull again. So, of course, this heats up Saturn to quite a degree. Again, about 4,600 degrees, and it almost becomes a red dwarf. You can also see how it sort of knocked it off its tilt as well, which is quite interesting. We'll speed up time. The rings will probably form again, actually. The rings will probably form as usual once again. You can see it's actually cooling down much faster because gas giants generally do cool down a lot faster. And the moons have mostly stayed intact, which is quite surprising, actually. Speed up some more time. Wait for it to cool down. You can see the temperature down here, by the way. Wait for this to cool down, and we'll see what kind of gas giant we end up with. You also notice as you speed up the simulation, it sort of lags out more. You can see it's not really the graphics that are lagging, it's more the actual calculation. And you can see that it's sort of, you see how these are like straight lines, because it has to take sort of more accuracy errors. If you imagine drawing straight lines, simulating straight lines on a binary computer is a lot easier than simulating actual proper curves. That's what they actually do. So the rings are still in peace. This is really quite surprising. But anyway, we're gonna wait for it. It's almost cooled down now, and we'll see how it ends up. It looks quite beautiful. I mean, you can see these patterns are quite amazing to see. Sort of the beauty of space really is in this. So here we go. It's cooling down 900 degrees. We'll see how far it goes. Oh, another thing that's fun is also when you throw a black hole through the solar system. That's quite fun to see how everything just messes up completely. Anyway, here we go. Surface temperature still decreasing. Slowly down it goes. 600, 550, and you can see the planet. Actually, I think the planet looks similar. I don't think it's actually changed. Sometimes it changes the look of the planet when this kind of thing happens. But if we slow down, you can see this sort of dark patch with still a tiny bit of heat here. That's where it actually collided. You can see that it sort of left a permanent sort of scar. See here? like a permanent scar, like sort of like a mottled look. Well, that's basically where it collided, and that probably never go from the planet. It will take, you know, thousands of years or hundreds of years for that to disappear. Anyway, it looks like everything was working, and we have a new Saturn, my friends. So let's try something else. I believe there are some more things that are quite fun. Galaxy collision looks awesome. So here are two galaxies. Again, they do not simulate every star in here. They just simulate sort of clusters. But it does look beautiful. I mean, look at this. It's just, oh, it's just, you just want to zoom into here. Oh, look at that. So this is basically what will happen to Andromeda and Milky Way, which is the galaxy we're in right now, in about 5 billion years. I think it's 5 billion years. But they'll basically just collide. And it won't actually harm our solar system, because it won't actually harm our solar system because the stars are so far apart. There's a very low chance that they'll actually collide, but we'll see anyway. So if we speed up time, you can see them sort of splurge out, and eventually they will collide to form a new galaxy. You can see the center spinning really fast. But you see we've now made sort of like an elliptical galaxy, and we're going to give it more time, and we'll see it's all sort of combining together, and eventually this will sort of space out. We now have a new elliptical galaxy. You can see how fast that is spinning in the middle. It's quite insane. In fact, in real life, eventually everything will be spinning on the same plane. You wouldn't have sort of stuff going... Although technically in an orbit, things can orbit polar, so they can sort of orbit, if you imagine like this, instead of just like this. But eventually you can see that everything's sort of starting to spin one way, and also on the same axis. That's just part of entropy, part of something that happens, because everything that spins on the other side ends up being cancelled out. Sort of the more that's spinning one way will always win. So you can see this is all forming sort of a spiral galaxy now, and speed up more time. It's probably going to get inaccurate, but it is sort of ish formed a spiral galaxy. It's more of a sort of elliptical, but anyway. So let's see, anything else? Pulsars, these didn't work. Yes, oh, they worked this time. It's great. So you can see that they have pulsars as well, and you can see how visually you can tell pulsars. Now, pulsar, if you don't know, is actually a neutron star that spins very fast, and it spins so fast it starts erupting X-rays out of this side. These are X-rays, so it erupts, and you can see it from Earth as this very bright light. But when it moves away, you can't actually see it. That's how they know these exist, because it sort of passes here like this, and you can only see it when the stream comes in the light. Anyway, so this is a neutron star. Now if you look at this, this has the mass of 1.8 suns. This is almost twice as massive as our sun, okay? But it has a radius of 12 kilometers. Can if you imagine 12 kilometers, that's about the that's about the whole distance across my town, Wolverhampton. It's about the whole distance across like a normal small town, about that distance, probably a bit more. But that's tiny. If you imagine, you could fit a town in here, right? Like just one, and this has the mass of twice the sun, so it's incredibly dense. And that's what a neutron star is. It's sort of the end life cycle of a star once it becomes incredibly dense. And basically, you can tell now, if you haven't noticed already, look at this time step. This is 5 milliseconds, or I think that's, no, 5 microseconds. Actually, that is milliseconds. Okay, 5 milliseconds. I've just done physics today. I need to adjust all this. 5 milliseconds a second. That's an incredibly short time. If we put it back to real time, you'll see how fast they really spin. So this is literally how fast they spin in real time. This is the only reason you can see them. So you would actually see something like that from space. So they spin incredibly fast. That is basically how they work. So that's pulsars. Very dangerous, because if you get into that X-ray burst, you are dead. It's just going to fry you straight away. What else do we have? Yes, if those of you who have watched the Game of Thrones, you will know that they have a certain solar system. They actually have, you see this planet Westboros, this is actually the planet that it takes place on, right here. And you'll see they have 2 suns, right? And these are the 2 suns, right here, in the film. If you slow down time a second, let's see, let's slow down time. This looks more of an ocean world than this, but you can't always get it accurate. You can actually land on the planet here. You can look up and see the 2 suns. So that's quite cool. They have made some of these things in from like pop culture references. They did actually make a Halo world, but that was in the previous version. I don't know exactly what they've done with that in the current version. You also have the Earth in Between Suns. Now this is interesting. You see this like 1 second night here? This is because you have two suns. You have a sun there, and you have a sun here. So basically you have two suns rotating around the same Earth. Now this would be very interesting. They're the same distance, so it's not like you're going to get fried, but it would mean you have a very short night. Basically everywhere is a day. Can you imagine the time zones? Can you just imagine that? Just stop for me. Imagine the time zone mess up this would cause. And you can, it's just really weird. Earth's looking pretty green, apart from the fact that the bloody North Sea is just like dried up. The North Sea is dried up, Florida's like twice as big. Yeah, it's pretty odd. I think it's hotter than it was before. I mean, look, there's like most of, I mean, Antarctica is land, not ice now. Oh, bloody hell. Greenland is like total land. Okay, I don't know what's happened there. That's a bit weird. So you can also have collapsing momentum is pretty cool. It's basically what happens when you sort of put a ton of Marses together and just see what happens, and it's quite interesting. It's kind of really enjoyable and beautiful to watch, but it's also interesting because you can see which ones will survive. You can see they're all sort of combining into one ball right now. It's just incredibly good, and they've had actually a proper physicist as well taking place in this game to make sure the science is correct and everything. So they're just all colliding. You've got little small ones as well. It's the fragments. So you will always get like a couple rival planets, but eventually they will collide somehow, and you'll end up with one. Well, most of the time anyway. It's just entropy, really. It's sort of things becoming more chaotic. I mean, you'll end up with one, but you know what I mean. Entropy is sort of a basic thing. And you can see this guy is basically on an escape trajectory, so he's probably not going to come back. But we seem to have the main planet here. You see how we've got like a binary system between this one? This guy is orbiting this planet here. We've got a binary system, and this seems to be a tertiary. Maybe this guy... Yes, it's a tertiary system. It's basically multiple planets orbiting each other, and I'm not sure what this guy's going to do. Oh, close one. You see that miss? That was a damn close miss. This seems to have thrown it out of balance a bit. But we still have that binary system going, so I wonder if we speed up time, anything else will happen. No, it seems like we have like quite a stable orbit system here. Very, bloody hell, that is very close. And it's going to collide. Yep, had to collide eventually. So they're getting closer and closer, you see. And I guess this will orbit that. Well, that's just going to go on an escape trajectory. Okay, so you can see how this is quite interesting. It does help you understand gravity, really, and all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting, actually. Anything, and what else do we have? Yeah, look, let me just start off with this. You do not want to run something like that. That's just going to completely crash your computer. I don't care how flipping, how powerful your computer is. Earth and 5,000 moons, you're just going to completely crash. You can also see scale tours like this, which tell you how big the small stuff is. Oh god, my eyes. Okay, sorry for any viewers who just had like an orgasm there. So let's go down really small, and I can't even see the thing. Here, I guess. God. Okay. All right, let's go smaller. Can we go smaller than that? Okay, it seems to start off at the Mars. So if you imagine this is Mars right here, this is the Earth, and God, why isn't it in chart mode? What has happened? Hang on a sec. Radius? No. Mass? Okay. I'm not sure how this works, but we can go to the solar system, for example. Go to solar system, and then put it in chart mode. And we can size compare everything. So if we go to the smallest possible thing, which I believe is this guy right here. We just pause time for a sec. So we have like tiny little asteroids here, 124 kilometers. It's very small. We're never going to see anything like that small, you know, a normal day. And we have Ceres. Now, if you don't know, this is not more of an educational video, isn't it? Ceres is the biggest asteroid, object in the asteroid belt. It's basically like a very small planet, said no Orion. And then you have something like Pluto here. Mercury is quite a bit bigger than Pluto. Actually, Pluto is pretty small. And then you have something like Mars, which is sort of, again, you see how Mercury is actually the same mass as Mars. except it is obviously bigger, which means it is more dense. And then we have Venus, and then we have Earth. You see how it's sort of escalating here. Now these aren't obviously simulators, they're not actually going to crash. If we were to click make live, it would actually crash. All of them would crash together, and it's quite fun. So this is our planet, obviously. We have Uranus, Neptune, gas giants, and we have Saturn and Jupiter. You can see how big Jupiter is compared to Earth. And then we have the Sun, which sort of dwarfs everything. So I just think the scale is kind of cool as well. Another thing that's cool is tidally locked as well. Now if you know what tidally locked is, it's when you basically have the planet rotating at the same speed that it orbits at. So it essentially means that one side of the planet is always getting more light than the other side. So as we orbit, this side is always gonna, this Pacific Ocean side is always gonna face the sun. And what does this mean? Well, it basically means that, you know, these guys over here, poor little Britain and Europe and even America, most of it, and you know, Africa and India, they're never going to get any sunlight, so they're just going to freeze. You can imagine having a night that lasts forever and a day that lasts forever. So basically, if we speed up time, you will see that the ice will start to expand over a year, and over here will just be roasting. You won't actually show, but you would not like to be living on Hawaii right now, fundamentally. You can see that you've got sort of the if we speed up time more until it sort of gets fixed. So spreading across the oceans, obviously, and then eventually it will sort of reach a point where it won't spread any further because it's too hot. But we just wait for the ice to spread across. And there are seasons still, so you can see it has a slightly eccentric orbit, so it's not always going to be fully working. Because if you can see this orbit, it's not fully level. You see it's sort of slightly tilted, so that's why you would have very slight seasons. You can see that there's quite a slight difference in how much light is received. So if we start on time, you can see it'd be actually the best to survive in this place because it's sort of on the edge of being hot and cold. This would be a good place. Again, you'd be dead if you went anywhere here. If you went here, like, or if you were in Hawaii, Hawaii must be flipping, you know, absolutely toasty. You're pretty much dead if you go here as well. I don't even know why they've got the lights on. They're probably all dead, unless they've got automatic stuff. Interesting about the Gulf of Mexico, you've basically just made a lake if you think about it. Anyway, what else do we have? There are quite a few cool simulations on here. Just having a look here. You have black holes as well, by the way. And black holes are pretty cool. We'll probably do one of those before we finish. Ah, here we go, black hole. So, black holes can't actually be seen. Again, these stars are used for visual views. This is probably what's similar to the Milky Way, the entrance of the Milky Way. You know what I mean, the center of it. So this is our black hole. Now this black hole has the mass of a sun, okay? Although the black hole at the center of the Milky Way has a much bigger mass. You know what I mean. So there's the mass of a sun. Now from this distance you can't actually see it. Now, it's obviously because it's a black hole. Yes, I know. But you will slowly see, if we just pause the simulation a sec, as we zoom in, let's keep these stars in the background. As we zoom in, you will actually see. Now, a black hole is extremely tiny. If you thought a neutron star was tiny, you haven't seen a black hole, okay? Because a black hole is 3 kilometers across. So if you imagine the commute it takes to get to the center of like a small town, that's basically how far, how big a black hole is across. And yet it still weighs a sun, so it is incredibly dense. And literally, if once you get near a black hole, you're flipping done. You're gonna just go into it or something, unless you pull out really quickly. So this is our black hole. Now, as we zoom in, you can see you can't see it because it's black, but you can actually see it eventually. No matter how we look at it, though, we cannot. It does not give off any light. You notice it doesn't give off any light. The only way we can see is how it distorts what's behind it. You can see it sort of distorts it, and you see is that it bends the light, and this is actually because the light is not actually going through the black hole, because the light cannot escape a black hole, so the light has to orbit around it, and the reason why it doesn't at the middle is because it actually falls into the black hole and never gets out again. So if we zoom in, we can see how this warps the view of the star. Now it's not the perfect visual effect, because as you see, as we go over the star, it would go black, and that wouldn't happen. In fact, the star would just become an infinitely small ring around this black hole. So this is basically a black hole. Interesting but very scary stuff. Let's have a look. Anything else? We could do some fun. We could do some collisions. That's historical. Oh yeah, there's a collision of those. Okay. We could do some collisions. Let's see. I guess that would be in create then. So we could do some collisions. So what would happen if the Earth came to the moon? Let's slow it down. Jesus, slow down. Okay. So let's go over this. This is like flipping disaster movie. So the moon collides into the Earth at 12.3 kilometers a second. Now that is quite a long way. Imagine something traveling 12 kilometers a second. It is quite ridiculously fast. So there's the moon absorbing. This is about 2. You can see here, if this number is closer to 1, then that's how fast the simulation is traveling. So this is about 2 times real speed. We can actually slow it down to real time for the realism aspect. Let's go real time, please. Okay. Slow it down to 1 sec. 1. Okay. And can we set this to target? Okay, so that's 1 second a second. All right, this is real time. You can still see. You can see these moving. Can you imagine how far these are traveling? So let's go to Plymouth, Florida, which is just going past the first. I think it's a bit in the ocean, but you know what I mean. So, oh god, you could see it sort of. Can you imagine being on like a boat in the ocean and seeing this happening? You'd like, I don't even know what you'd do. But you can see these particles flying off. It's sort of the moon is dropping below the horizon as it gets absorbed. And eventually, you'd obviously, have all this covering you. Let's go to Cuba. That's what Cuba's doing. So yeah, oh good god, that is horrifying. But it's really cool. You can just go first person on this stuff. Let's go to around New York, which is sort of around here. And we're gonna have a look. And yeah, horrifying still. Just imagine us in New York just doing nothing, just like flipping out, riots everywhere. But anyway, as we speed up time, this just looks beautiful. I just love the look of this sort of collision happening. I don't know if it's like a secret thing for destruction or something. You can also see how fast these fragments have been flying out. This is a 4-kilometer wide fragment going out at 21 kilometers a second. You know, there's incredible speeds. 15 kilometers a second. It's just ridiculous how fast these are going. You can see how their orbital trails, these are far beyond the escape velocity. These will never come back to Earth, most likely. Only the bigger parts will actually arrive back at Earth. So let's speed up time. Again, you can see the time pass down here. And we'll see how fast time can go by. So let's go through. So you can see, like, this is the shockwave up here. So you'd probably be dead after this pass. This is sort of the melt as well, because it would melt the crust. And you can see the ocean sort of freezing as well. Sorry, the ocean the ocean not even melting. The ocean just evaporating as the heat sort of travels through the atmosphere. And the shockwave's about to reach the UK. It does sort of slowly dissipate as it passes. But yeah, that'll probably be very disastrous for everyone. And you can see now that the moon has been absorbed. And it's incredibly hot there. 5,000 degrees. You can see the Earth is heating up in Kelvin. I want this to be in Celsius. That is the temperature on the surface at the point of collision. But at the moment, it's going to be, you can see this is the general temperature, just slowly heating up. And this is about 25 fast, so you're at 40 minutes after the collision. And if there's anyone alive in the UK, they now have no water. Can you just imagine being on a boat and then just all the water just evaporates underneath you? That'd be quite ridiculous. Anyway, so here comes the melt. It's gonna pass. Yeah. UK is dead. Oh god, I think something collided up there. So we still have these fragments flying around. I think this one is in orbit. Yep, this one is in orbit. You see, it's 5 kilometers a second, so it's actually gonna collide back with the Earth around about. It might actually get away. This will definitely be entering the atmosphere though, so it'll probably slow down. Then again, they don't actually simulate atmosphere physics at the moment, which is kind of annoying, but, you know. So the Earth is kind of screwed, put simply. Let's just speed up time. Again, you got your time down here, so speed up time. About 2 hours in, again, the Earth is just heating up with these ridiculous temperatures. And yeah, it's just the whole surface is just molten right now. At 5 hours, still heating up. 6 hours, still heating up. 7 hours, and it's still heating up as well. Can you just imagine? You just imagine everyone be utterly dead. Anyway, let's try another collision actually. You can also do collisions at offsets like this, which is interesting because it sort of propels these into an orbit. If any of these actually will reach an orbit. This one may. That one may. That one won't. So most of these won't actually reach an orbit. But you can see how this will affect the Earth's rotation, because now it has been hit by rotating. So that's obviously going to greatly increase how fast it rotates. So actually you can check on this rotation speed. So now the Earth is rotating at 3-hour days because it's been accelerated by the Mars collision. We can also do slight skimming, where it just like screws up a bit of Africa. It just screws up a little bit of Africa and it keeps going. That wouldn't be very good either. That would not be good at all. You can also see, if I just pause it, you can see it actually creates like, well, look at that crater. Look at that crater though. That must be like into the mantle. Look at it. Look at this. Sorry, the atmosphere sometimes disappears, but that's huge. They might need to retweak some of this a bit. You can also do another skimming one. Yeah, that was quite a bit worse. But I believe the Earth will still survive. Or will it? It's sort of reaching tip at about 420 Kelvin, and it should cool down from there. I think the oceans will still be evaporating though, pretty much. Yeah, this would not be good. Yeah, there's like a little bit of pond. There's like some ocean left. Not that much. This would not be good. But the oceans will recover. The Earth will survive, my friends. The Earth will survive. It takes a long time. Yeah, that is 30 years on. The Earth has survived, but it is now frozen. Oh, it's because the climate simulation is screwed. But you know, you understand basically where this is going, right? An interesting thing is colliding Sun and Jupiter. You can see the Jupiter here colliding with the Sun. Now you may think, oh well, Jupiter's tiny, it's not really going to make that much of a difference to the Sun. Well, you will see, it actually creates quite a fire show. You can see it's sort of getting absorbed in slowly. You can see that exploding in. Which is cool when you see these fragments flying off. I was going to cover building a solar system because you can do that as well, but I'm not going to cover that in the video because it's going to take a long time. I may do a separate video on it. But anyway, you can see that it's quite. You can see how it's pushing. Can you see this? How it's sort of warping the convection currents around here. Each one of these circles is like a convection current in the Sun, because you know it works like a giant sort of boiler. So you can see this sort of. It's a massive pulse. It's how small was Jupiter, and there's this massive pulse just traveling across, and you've got sort of this very weird looking stuff here. I'm not sure that will cover the entire planet. That has definitely screwed up quite a lot of the Sun. This is sort of like a really weird patch here. So yeah, it will actually do quite a bit if this happened. Mars moons. Yeah, so the Mars moons collide. Yeah, it doesn't look so great on like small things, to be honest. But you know, black hole on black hole, you do not want to do that. Bad idea. Neptune and Earth, yes, you can also see how that's going to work. Again, all gas giants and stars sort of react similarly. This will probably become a red dwarf again. Basically, a brown dwarf is like a very hot, very massive sort of basis of a star, but it's not exactly. It's sort of halfway between a star and a gas giant, so that's going to obviously heat up forever. I think that pretty much covers everything we have, you know. You can also see obviously all these charts for the stars and how they work and how they're rated on. What else do we have? Chaotic orbits, they're quite fun. Galaxies, systems. You can make random solar systems as well, like this one. It gives you random names, and it's a sun. And you can see, it gives you these really cool. Look how cool these planets are. Really cool looking planets. As well. Cool moons. Do we have any big ones? Yes, I suppose we do. And it's just cool to sort of see all this randomized stuff. To be honest, if you wanted randomized, really cool systems, you're probably better looking at Space Engine or something similar. So you can also see another thing here. This is very dangerous. God, how many moons? Oh, this is dangerous. Who invented that? How close does... Jesus, that almost hits the atmosphere. Yeah, again, this would probably get torn apart in real life at the rock limit. And these aren't always stable. Not really. Anyway, what else do we have? This guy. Another giant planet. And that's another moon. No habitable planets, it looks. No terrors. This is getting sort of a bit cold now. This looks like a similar sort of terrorist moon. That's a cool planet. That'll be a cool thing to be on. But anyway, so that is basically Universe Sandbox. You can also make solar systems on it with a similar way, and it's pretty fun. So if we go back to home just a second, it's pretty fun, and it's worth the buy if you're interested in this kind of sciencey stuff. It's also very flexible what you can do with it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little video. I need to get one out. I hope the microphone is functioning as correctly, which it should be. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.